to another amazing call. So, have you ever heard of intuitive eating? Or have you ever felt like your body just kind of craving something or you want something? Well, today we're going to talk with a beautiful expert, friend, beautiful woman. Her name is Fatima Sumar. Fatima is a holistic nutritionist that helps women balance their hormones, overcome their body shaming guilt, and has them radiating confidence and beauty from the inside out. She is very elevated and religious from a young age and loves playing with crystals. Fatima has a heart of gold as an empathetic and intuitive. I probably killed that word, by the way. She uses mind, body, soul connection in her practice and incorporates body code, emotion code, also known as EF, crystal therapy, meditation, chakra healing, color healing, and oracle cards. Definitely my kind of girl, right? So Fatima is a two-time published author, an international best-selling author, a co-host on the Healthy Way Vibes, jewelry designer, and a teacher of 30 years. She loves dancing, swimming, learning, yoga, and gardening. If there are 10 adults in a room and a child or a pet, they will find Fatima is angelic and pure. Fatima, hi, and welcome today to the call.
Thank you, Angie, for having me, and it's a pleasure being here.
I absolutely love everything you said. And like I said, you're my kind of girl, because between playing with crystals and oracle cards and just literally like all of these different fun things, it's so awesome. And that's kind of the reason we're doing these conversations, to share a little bit of what everybody does. Because one thing is you think, oh, she's a nutritionist coach. But when you really meet the person, it's kind of like, oh, cool. Like I can resonate with all those things.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say crystals. If I could actually show you how many crystals I've got here just beside me, you'd be quite amazed. Like I've got crystals in pendulum, in heart shapes. Yeah, I love my crystals.
Yeah, no, the same. And I think everybody starts somewhere, and a lot of people actually start collecting crystals or collecting this or playing with pendulums. Tell us a little bit how you got involved into all of this.
So as a young girl, very young girl, I knew I was very gifted and intuitive. And there was always this pull towards crystals. I didn't understand why I was so attracted to crystals when I was younger. And it sort of, I realized it later, but I'll sort of come back to it. But as a young girl, I've always been very spiritually elevated and connected. So as an Ismaili, it is part of our practice to meditate. You know, it's been part of our tradition, 1400 years to go back and meditate. So for me, I've always been very, very connected and elevated. And I never fit in with like kids my age. I found them too boring. Because it was like, I mean, although I wanted to play with them, but I could not connect with them. I remember this one time, I must have been grade 3 or 4, because we were outside. We were in like the portable classes at that time, and we were on recess, and so it was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. And so I said to my classmates, I'm like, it's gonna rain in about 3 minutes. They're like, okay, you're just on crack. Like, what are you talking about? It's nice and sunny. What are you talking about? I'm like, no, it's gonna rain. Like, I have people telling me it's gonna rain. They're like, no, you're crazy. I'm like, okay. Sure enough, 3 minutes later, it was like a torrential downpour, to the point that we all had to run inside. And so now, in terms of food and nutrition, and being that holistic nutritionist, it also came from like when I was very young. I've always been one to look at healthier options. Even though like I come from a family of really good cooks, but they not the healthiest, but I've always been very like, okay, well, if I eat this way, what's going to happen? So sort of, as a young child, I always knew that. And I would always question, why are you giving medication? You don't need medication. So I have an uncle who's a doctor, and he'd come over, and he was like one of those doctors that prescribes like every kind of drug out there. I've never been one to take any pharmaceutical drugs unless and until like I absolutely dreadfully need to. So I asked him. He was over, I was about 16. I'm like, why are you pushing all these drugs? What is the root of it? What would happen? What was happening in like the olden days? He couldn't give me an answer. And he actually told my dad that I had ADHD. And that actually, yes, that actually propelled me further to investigate why is food so important, not just to our physical body, but our mind, but also our soul. And so through that came this whole investigation and curiosity, as well as now, like I became a holistic nutritionist. So I actually went to school to get licensed. And now to come to the crystals, in 2010, I tore my hip flexor ligament. I couldn't walk for 2 years. And at this point, I'd been working at the airport, and I had completely lost touch with my intuitive side because it was such a toxic environment. I had actually forgotten who I was. And through this hip injury, I needed an outlet to heal. Right. And so I started doing what my grandma had taught me, was making these. I used to make thuspies, which are known as rosaries. And so then I started making them, and people were like, hey, where did you get that from? Like, I was like, oh, I made it myself. And I started then playing with crystals and stones. And that's when I realized this is why I was so drawn to crystals, because of the healing power in them. And they're just beautiful to look at. They're absolutely beautiful to look at. So that's sort of my holistic journey. And through the years, I've been so curious with different modalities. So some things resonate with me, and some I understand it, but that's not for me, kind of thing. So, and I can also get very dark sometimes, which is a good thing, because you need the dark for the light.
Right. So, I mean, I love the fact that you were questioning this ever since you were young. And yeah, I made a face when they said, oh, you probably have ADHD, because I'm not going to go either or. Just my general idea is, when people don't understand something, they're very quick to put a label, an explanation to it, blah, blah, blah. But they don't dig deep as into, okay, why is it happening? They'd rather just like slam a label on it and define it as this. And that's the whole thing that we're going to talk about today anyways, because that's where nutrition comes in. The root of the problem sometimes with a lot of the things that are happening around us and to our bodies. Well, what is the root of why this is causing it, right?
Yeah, it's very interesting, like with the whole, I mean, from the medical perspective, now that I've actually, studied about it, I understand where my uncle was, why he said that. Because if you've got ADHD, it's where basically you're fixated on one point, sort of.
Okay.
But it also, it's a deficiency in nutrients.
Okay.
So that's actually something that you could easily combat, is by understanding, again, coming back to the root, why is it happening? What is actually, happening? What nutrients are missing? And then that comes into intuitive eating, as to, well, okay, so you have all these cravings. You mentioned all these cravings that we get. One of the biggest cravings is chocolate, right? I know, me too. I love my chocolate. I won't deny that one. I absolutely love my chocolate. But you know what? We've been so programmed to say that, okay, the chocolate's not healthy. Actually, here's a good thing for you. So chocolate is a way to tell us that we need magnesium. So you want the darker chocolate, obviously. Okay. It's got magnesium in it, and our body is craving the magnesium. And so that actually connects to the solar plex, because that is with your joints. Nope, sorry, wrong one. That's your root chakra.
Okay.
Yeah, because that has to do with like your movement, your bones, your joints. So that's pretty much all connected to your root chakra. And so that's basically where you'll find that you're also finding a way that you're when you're lacking the magnesium, you'll find that you're imbalanced with your chakra. And so you'll notice that you're not always speaking your truth. You're covering your hands on your like lower abdomen. Yeah, it's quite
I'm
interesting.
trying to
Like,
think. Okay.
it's quite interesting when you actually look at it. The root of it, it's
Right.
very, very interesting how they're all connected. So it's you're bringing your mind, your body, your soul all together. Every time you take that bite of whatever it is, remember you're aligning all of your bodies and your extra dimensional bodies as well.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got to ask yourself, how do you feel before, after, and during?
Okay, questions. I'm like, wait. Okay. So, and I love that because I mean, I know, like what I said at the beginning, I know there's a reason why, we're craving something or our body's telling, but because you've studied it and you've gone so much deeper, I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Because you said, first of all, dark chocolate, does that have more magnesium or does milk chocolate not have any magnesium?
So dark chocolate has a lot more magnesium in it. The milk chocolate does have magnesium, but not a sufficient amount.
Okay.
And it also has a lot more sugar in it.
Okay, because I
Right.
crave milk chocolate. I kind of don't like the dark chocolate.
Do like a 70%.
Okay.
But I mean, again, if you're craving it, there's no harm in eating that chocolate. Just don't overindulge in the chocolate.
Well, if it has less, I need to eat more of it. No. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
But then you get into the sugar content.
The next question is, so you said it relates to the root chakra, and then you were talking about body movements and joints, but then you mentioned something about not speaking your truth.
In the sense that you're afraid to move forward. So when it comes
wow.
to, so when
Okay.
it comes to you wanting to move forward, you're reserved. So you're not gonna voice it.
Okay, that is super interesting.
So what does magnesium actually do? It helps, so it helps with relaxation. So it helps relax your muscles, your joints.
Okay.
Also great for when you have migraines or headaches, and then it allows blood flow.
Okay.
So chocolate is a great thing. So enjoy your chocolate. Enjoy.
Oh no, I do, but now I'm trying to figure out, well, this is good for me.
And another way that you can also have your chocolate is like have nuts with it, as long as you don't have any allergies to nuts, or even you can have like chocolate covered blueberries. So you're getting your antioxidant, double antioxidant as well. Or any other, I mean, the cherries, I don't personally like cherries in chocolate or anything, but I'll do like a cranberry or like a pomegranate.
Okay.
I love cherries, but just in its original state.
Right. Okay.
So there's different ways. Yeah.
Okay. But now let's ask the reverse. For example, I know someone who literally craves, like insanely, she craves potato chips. She's like, I know I'm not supposed to eat them, but it's a craving that she literally can't control herself. Like she has to grab a bag of potato chips. Why do we
That's a
crave
great
things
question.
like that?
That's a great question. So now it's a two-pronged question, actually.
Okay.
So there's one is the texture of it, right? Because your potato chips, they're hard and crunchy.
Okay.
Right? Now, salt, the other component to the potato chip, is the salt.
Okay.
And there's also potassium, because potatoes have a lot of potassium in them.
Okay.
So now you got to ask yourself, why is it that you're actually craving? Is it because you're having it out of boredom, or are you craving it because you really need it? So now if it's hard and crunchy, it's because you need to soften up on yourself.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And salt, although we've been told that, we don't need salt, but we actually do need a good quality salt. So you would look at a sea salt or a Himalayan salt, not the table salt, because the table salt, all of the nutrients have been pulled out of it.
Okay.
So now when you're looking at salt as a craving, your blood pressure is probably very low. And having that salt is actually stabilizing your blood pressure.
Okay.
So our cravings, they do tell us a lot of things. And a majority of the cravings are actually in the third chakra, in the solar plex, because they all connect to like the stomach, the digestion, diabetes, that whole area sort of.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually makes sense because 70% of our illnesses actually come from our gut.
Which is that whole, I'm not going to say movement, but that whole thing
Yes.
of clean your gut, do it in your gut. If anything, so that's why it comes from there.
Yeah. And so now if you're connecting it to your chakras or your spirituality, well, we need to have the stomach to digest our emotions. We need to have the stomach to digest what is happening.
Okay.
And if we don't have that thick stomach, well, we're not going to be able to digest the emotions. We're not going to be able to digest what's happening. We're not going to be able to, compartmentalize everything. Because the gut is actually your second brain, actually your more powerful brain. So there's that connection to your brain as well.
I love, like as we're talking and you just said that, I love the fact that our body is such a beautiful organism. I think 90% of us don't realize the function and the beauty and the actually maintaining this organic computer, because like spiritual wise, our heart sends more electronic and magnetic force than the brain does. So it's getting people to understand that the brain does that. But what you just said with the stomach also makes total sense, as in the stomach is your second gut. That's also kind of where we feel our intuition. Like I just have a gut knowing that this is going to happen. Every part of us is so beautifully made. And I'm going to say this in my own Angie way. We go screw everything up. Because we don't know nowadays, we don't know how to eat properly. It's easier. And I am the first to admit, and I talk a lot about myself in these calls because I want people to realize I'm just like everybody else, just like everybody else goes through, cravings. I would rather go buy a bag of chocolates, the milk chocolates with the peanuts. That is my craving. I would rather go buy that than go buy food.
Okay.
Which in a way, it's like, I know I'm supposed to be eating healthy, but this will fill me up. And
so you are also eating healthy because now you're getting your protein from your peanuts.
You're gonna make me go buy more and not feel guilty about it. I love this.
So the rule of thumb, and to come back to your point, Angie, how we have gone and screwed everything up.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're bombarded with all of this media.
Yes.
Eat this, have this, like you can't have this, you can't have this, whatever. But really the rule of thumb is when you're shopping, just stick to the perimeter.
Okay.
Because everything you need, all the nutrients that you need, the minerals, they're all on the outside.
Okay.
Anything on the inside is all processed, it's packaged, it's fake. And there's excess sugar in it, there's excess salt in it. And the rule of excuse me.
Okay.
Another rule of thumb is if you take a box or a packaging and you cannot pronounce any of those words, chances are it's not a real thing. So leave that and go for the real ingredients.
Right. And I think it's a shift in everything because like you just said, we're bombarded with try this, try that. But I think in a way it's kind of like realizing you can do the outside, like you just said. Maybe once in a while you can splurge inside because it's not about dramatic effects either. Like the way
Exactly.
that I view it. It's not like you, oh my God, you absolutely can't eat that. But it's knowing that, yeah, if we stick to what's actually good for us, we might not even be craving that anymore at a certain point because we need to train our own bodies quite literally into eating healthy again.
Yes.
Because, like, dumb example, let's take wheat bread versus a more, pure bread. The taste is different. So it's adjusting taste buds, and it's a lifestyle change, which is what, okay, so let me ask you, because that's like a conversation we usually have when we talk about diets and fads. Nobody should be on a diet. It
No.
should be on a lifestyle change, because whether you stick to that diet or not, you're not being true to yourself if you actually want to eat this and you're not. It's knowing how to relate to your body, because not all diets and not all foods fit well with everyone's bodies, right?
That's right. So perfect example. Like, I mean, I've been eating gluten because, it's part of our thing. And then I realized that I was gluten intolerant because I was getting a lot of migraines. And now, just recently, I've been diagnosed with celiac.
Okay.
But here's a kicker. It's actually a lack of self-love.
Okay.
So I was like, holy smokes,
Right.
that's a huge kicker, because you know what? Like, I was just coming out of a nasty relationship and the self-love was lost. And I pretty much gave myself the celiac. So it's quite interesting. Even the food that we eat is connected to every emotion, symptom. And again, yeah, you got to train your body how to listen to it. Now, here's a question. When you eat your food, do you salivate, number one? Do you take the time to sit down and actually enjoy your meal? Or is it like, okay, I gotta go, like scarf it down and not think about, what it is,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you want to be eating, first of all, 33, chew it through 33 times.
Oh,
Yes.
that's a
So
lot.
one, that is a lot, right?
That's
And
a
so
lot.
why you're chewing it 33 times is because you're actually helping the digestive process, right? And
Okay.
also you're gonna get fuller faster than if you just scarf it down.
Why?
So because you're actually appreciating every single taste that comes out of it.
Okay.
Right? So you're actually enjoying every process, right from the cooking part of it. Or if you've gone to a restaurant, you have that time, like you can build your salivary glands, with the anticipation of like, okay, I've ordered this meal. I've
Mhm.
ordered this steak dish and it's gonna have this, and I can already feel it.
Okay.
And so once you actually get, it's into your body, you can taste it, you appreciate it a lot more. Not only now have you appreciated it, but your body's satisfied,
Mhm.
right? So your cravings are gone because you're actually appreciating the food that you have
Mhm.
and really taking the time to enjoy it. Your
Mhm.
cravings are gone. And also, your soul is smiling because it's now nourished.
Mhm.
So, did you know that in North America, we are very malnourished?
Yes, I can totally see that. Yeah, I've heard it.
Although we have
An
a
abundance
huge
of everything.
abundance of everything, and we have this like epidemic of like obesity, but
Mhm.
we're actually malnourished because we're not getting the nutrients we want.
Mhm.
And so now here, coming to intuitive eating and how powerful and how amazing it is to actually be able to listen to your body, right? So we've talked about chocolate, we've talked about salt. There's so many other cravings, like,
Mhm.
especially when a woman is pregnant, she needs the folate, she needs all these nourishments, right? So she's craving like weird things like pickles and sardines, but she's wanting the nourishment, she's wanting the nutrients. So I'll give you an example of what happened to me one time, and it was just really weird. So I had gone shopping. This was it was Christmas time. I had never had chestnuts in my life.
Okay.
This was probably a few years back. I don't know what it was, but I was just like, I had this sudden urge. I needed chestnuts. And pomegranate. I love pomegranate. Like, I'm a pomegranate queen. I absolutely love pomegranate. Like, I will make sure there's always pomegranate, like in season like whenever it's season, I will always get pomegranate. So pomegranate wasn't so out of, norm for me. And also the persimmons. I like those as well.
Okay.
So now, what is common with all of these? They have folate. They're high in antioxidant. They're very fibrous. So it was the folate that I was craving. I literally went crazy and bought like chestnuts, and I bought like pomegranate and what was it? The persimmons. Because my body just wanted this. And after that, I was like, I love the chestnuts. I've been missing out all this time. So it was me listening to my body saying, hey, you need this. Like, please give me, like, nourish me. I need this food.
So let me ask you on that basis, because it's something you had never had. And
No.
all of a sudden you get this crazy, I want it and I want it now. How do people actually start listening to their body? How do you, let's talk about it from two different aspects. One is how to be intuitive and connected to your body. And second is, how do we eliminate the mind of thinking, well, that's ridiculous. I've never had that. Why am I going to go crave for that? And won't go for it.
So, okay. So the first one is, it starts with, again, coming back to taking the time to actually eat and slow down. Right. So when you're grabbing something, whether it is like the Doritos or the fruit, why are you grabbing it? You want to ask yourself, is it because you're bored?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because you're trying to like hide some emotions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we've gotten rid of sort of those questions.
Mm-hmm.
And now, okay, so you've answered those questions. Now you can actually look at it further. Well, okay, so I've picked up an apple, I've picked up Doritos. Which is sort of better for me? Well, we know the apple is much better.
Right.
So you have to take one step at a time.
Okay.
And then take that apple, and you could want that peanut butter. Have that peanut butter, because that peanut butter is actually healthy.
Mm-hmm.
With the Doritos, ask yourself, what is it going to do to me now? What is it going to do to my body after? And how am I going to feel? The minute you start asking yourself, how am I going to feel? That's when you're starting to open up the ability to listen to what your body's saying.
Okay. So in a way, it's kind of like questioning and slowing down and actually taking a moment to step back and say, not only why am I doing this, but looking towards the how am I going to feel part. Because I think, to be honest, a lot of people might, in that situation between the Doritos and the apple, knowing, right, they're still going to choose whatever they're going to choose. But I think the post question, how am I going to feel afterwards? There's a lot of people that knowingly choose the Doritos, knowing that they're going to feel guilty about it after because that wasn't the best choice. So it's kind of that comes with the training. Do you want to feel guilty about eating this after, or are you going to be fine with it?
Yeah. And then another thing that you want to look at is, if you're eating out of boredom, chances are you're probably thirsty before anything else.
Okay.
So grab that glass of water before you actually grab the bag of Doritos. If you still have that urge, that need, well, then you need to ask yourself, what am I missing? Why am I looking at, then it comes back to your heart, like the texture of it. What is this Dorito telling me? Because it's so hard and rigid, where am I being so tough and rigid with myself without that judgment?
Okay.
So the minute we take out that judgment, it allows us to be a little bit more open and receptive.
So when you talk about texture, let's say texture of anything, it's what is the texture of that item?
Yeah,
Seeing where we apply that kind of same quality to ourselves or to our life.
yeah.
Okay. Super
So
interesting.
like peanut butter is very smooth
Okay.
versus a Dorito.
Mm-hmm.
So peanut butter is more flexible, it's more open, it's more pliable. But peanut butter also has a lot of dense energy. So if you're working out and you just, usually peanut butter, if you haven't had enough nutrients and you're working out, you need that energy. Peanut butter is going to give you that energy. I love my peanut butter.
Okay. Okay.
But now if you look at peanut butter is soft. Where are you being soft? Are you being soft in your heart chakra? Are you being soft in your throat chakra where you're able to speak openly? Right? Or are you very rigid? Where are you rigid? Are you rigid in your heart and not letting anybody in? So the food
Wow.
texture also
Okay.
tells you what is sort of going on with you.
Okay. Definitely I mean, there's so many things I can probably pick your brain on because it's so interesting how one thing or one aspect can literally lead to a whole bunch of questioning and answers and discoveries. Because
Yes.
let's say one person could have a craving for something that's totally unrelated or different to another craving they have. So it's kind of like the going back and forth and questioning. I know it sounds like hard work, but questioning everything.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, we are as humans, we are supposed to question everything.
Mm-hmm.
But because of media propaganda, we're told, no, this is the right way and this is how it is. So here's another example you would never think of. If you're craving ice, like chewing on ice,
Mm-hmm.
well, that tells me that you've got pica. And that also tells me you're iron deficient.
Okay.
So if you're chewing on ice and you're not pregnant, go get yourself checked. Make sure you get a blood panel done with your physician and get your iron levels because iron helps with our blood cells. It helps with blood flow. And
Mm-hmm.
our basic need is the need of giving and receiving unconditional love. So if you're eating that ice cube and you're lacking the iron, well, guess what? You're not receiving and giving.
Wow. Could you be craving iron in a different way that's not just with the ice?
Yeah, like so you could, I mean, one way you can get iron is obviously through meat or through your vegetables, but you could actually feel it. Like, I mean, I know around, my menstrual cycle,
Mm-hmm.
I need the iron because as women, we lose a lot of
Mm-hmm.
blood and we
Blood.
lose a lot of iron. So
Mm-hmm.
I know, like, I'll be like, I just want meat. I want that meat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty obvious way, but I mean, ice is very, you wouldn't think of it. And that's why
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that.
Yeah. And that's why I asked it to be something else because it's like the most randomest thing that we could have, and it's like
Yeah.
ice. Okay. Okay. No, it's absolutely fascinating. But now let's kind of switch a little bit into, I don't want to say the spirituality movement, but I know there's a lot of people that become more enlightened, more spiritual, change their way of eating, and you actually do feel better in your body.
You
And
do.
spiritually, it helps you because let's be honest, if you're sick, if you're dragging, if you're dense, the least thing you kind of want to think of is how do I get floating out of my head? Like it makes sense.
Yeah.
How do we nourish that part with the food? And obviously it's with the intuitive, but how do you explain, I guess, in other terms, why people change their way of eating when they become more spiritual and connected? Does that make sense?
Um, it does. So
Okay.
so it comes back to feeling good, right? So a lot of times people who have not been awakened to the spiritual realm don't understand that connection of feeling happy. When
Mhm.
you're happy, everything's clear, everything is open, you're receiving everything. And so a lot of times when you're constantly doing that, you're propelling that forward. So spiritually, that's what you're doing. You're nourishing your body, you're nourishing your mind, you're nourishing your soul. And so now once you start nourishing, like once you take one little simple action,
Mhm.
you'll notice that it's easier to take all these other actions. So the basic, like, the one thing that I always say is water. Because a lot of people are so like, oh, I don't like water, I don't want to have water. And but we need at least 8 to 10 glasses of water. So half the body weight or of like so half the body weight in ounces should be of water that you drink, because 70% of our body is water. So just by taking that simple step of drinking more water, your soul is already nourished, because now all of your cells are, starting to wake up again.
Mhm.
Our soul is integrated. It's so deep, it's also into our cells. So it's not external, it's within us.
Mhm. And it's not like this. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. It's not like this ghost that just lives inside your body. It's literally the body. Like you just said, it's in the cells. It's
Yes.
part of, I mean, there we get into a little bit more of a woo-woo or a little bit more of quantum physics, but literally every part of us is our soul. This is just a manifested form, the physical form that we see. But if we understand that all of that energy and all of those things that are going on that they taught us in, anatomy class and in biology, that is our soul, like you're
Yeah.
saying. So that's why it gets nourished, because we are literally feeding it because it is the soul.
Yes. And then you want to do things that your soul enjoys. So there was this Indian movie. And Indian movies, it's all about the singing and dancing and whatever. So there was they were saying that the singing or music is the it's the gateway to your soul.
Okay.
But I'm not translating it like it's that it's transliterated.
Okay.
Um, so by singing or dancing or doing the things that we love, we're opening the pathways to our soul. We're actually nourishing our soul even further. So not just by food, but
Right.
also through our actions, our deeds, um, our hobbies.
Well,
We're
I mean,
all
sorry, I'm thinking we can actually like go back full circle, because at the beginning we were talking about, not wanting to move forward or validate your voice, or that's something that the soul, not the mind, that's something that the soul is wanting to do. So it
yeah,
all goes back into full circle, because if we don't do it, if we don't do what our soul actually desires, then we start like breaking the cycle, and then we start feeling like crap, and then we can develop some kind of, let's call it disease for lack of a better word, but it doesn't have to be something severe, just a break in the rhythm. So yeah, that's why it connects all in full circle.
yeah, and and also like our trauma is our emotions, or we're not listening to our soul.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we store all this emotion, pent up anger, and then we wonder why we're going to like pharmaceuticals, which are just a band-aid.
Right.
Right? You want to always get to the root of why it's happening. What is happening? What emotions am I actually dealing with that I've buried so far deep down that I don't want to deal with them, and I'm just band-aiding it?
Mm-hmm.
So there is something that I found really, really interesting. So the science of nutrition is actually older and more prevalent than the science of pharmacology. So
Mm-hmm.
the science of nutrition has been around since the early 1800s,
Okay.
whereas the um, science of pharmacology was discovered in 1892. So almost 90 years difference, but because of one individual, John R. Rockefeller, he paid every single school,
Mm-hmm.
out there, like the Harvard, the Oxfords, like all these big schools, to take out homeopathic and holistic health.
Yep.
And he said, if you don't, you're not going to get any funding. And that to me was so outrageously mind-blowing and hypocritical, that it comes down to money. But the good thing with spirituality is you don't need the money.
Right.
In the spiritual realm, you don't need money. Yes, in the physical world, we do. So how do we nourish that realm?
Right.
So it comes back to question everything.
And precisely that. Question everything to the point of, why do we believe the things that we believe? And so I studied advertising, quite literally, I studied advertising, and I studied alternative medicine, which is where I learned that. I mean, I actually had to read a book. I don't remember what it's called, but it's something toxology. And that's where I learned the actual truth of the pharmaceutical world. Like, I was like, the same thing. I was like, seriously? Wow. When you look at it from the alternative medicine, it's the same thing. For thousands and thousands and thousands of years, there has been ways of healing the body that had nothing to do with the way people try to heal the body now. Now they try to put a Band-Aid and it's all a cost. Before, it was literally, you would go to the lady down the street or down the little tribe hut that knew how to mix the herbs and this and that and the ointments. It's the grandma's, you know, chicken soup for when you have a cold. And because those are the things, again, the reason for this spirituality talk show itself, it's bringing back that knowledge and saying, hey, this isn't woo-woo. I mean, I love the word woo-woo and I play with it because why not? But it's not as crazy as they have made it sound just a few hundred years ago, because it wasn't that long ago, like you just said. I mean, and the science of nutrition even came before all of this. And yet modern day person just ignores it because they've been told that's crazy. And if you do that route, like just even insurance companies, they won't
play on the
provide,
fear.
right? They won't provide coverage for something that's more natural because blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And that's why people like you are important to come out and speak and talk and say, like you just said, there's no money needed for spirituality. The only thing that's needed is the learning and the guidance, because we've lost that, or it's been taken away, whichever way we want to see it. We've lost that inner knowledge of actually living healthy. Okay, that was my rant.
No, it's a great rant. But so if you look at the last few years, couple of years that we've had as a world, a lot of people have been awakened to, like, wait a second, why do I need to take this? There's more truth here. There's something happening. So people have actually started shifting their mindset, their outcome, their outlooks as to how they're treating their bodies, right? And so in a way, I'm glad. Like, I'm sad, you know, like I'm devastated for what has happened in the world. But at the same time, as a shift, I'm glad that people are actually starting to realize, like, this is a bunch of baloney. Some of this is a bunch of baloney. Pardon my French, but there is more truth. And if you look at Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, they've been around. So Ayurveda has been around for 5,000 years. Traditional Chinese medicine has been around about 3,000 to 4,000 years.
Right.
So now there has to be some merit to it. Like, it's not just, you know, like, as you say, woo-woo, there's actual merit to it.
Right.
And here's a simple, you know, like a simple thing that you can do. Like, when you've got a cold, just bump on your thymus.
Oh, okay.
So this actually, you've got your lymphatic system, and this is going to drain it.
Okay.
And believe me, it feels great when you've actually done it for a few minutes in the shower.
Okay.
And you're also opening up your chakras as well.
And again, everything can relate to everything else, because it is, number one, taking empowerment of your own body and your own health, not giving your medical issue over to the hands, I'm going to say it straight out, to somebody with a white coat. because they know what they're doing. And that's kind of like that whole mind training, I guess, conditioning
Mhm.
of giving your power away to somebody else. So number one,
Yeah.
it's taking back the power. Number two, it's doing exactly what you just said. It's actually taking care of yourself. If you need to go do that, then go do that. You can do it in the shower. You can do it, whatever it is. But it's taking that, I am going to do this. And number three, it's literally the science and the beauty of our organism. It's just like a computer. You know which keys to press for the computer to do what task. It's learning to do that for us.
Yeah. So we've been given one body. Our body is a temple. Sort of coming back to what we were saying earlier, it's the temple. If
Mhm.
we're not looking after it, that's on us.
Mhm.
It is 100% on us, right? And so it we have given away our power because we've been brainwashed to say, well, you know best. No, actually you don't.
Right. Right.
And it's so heartbreaking sometimes when I see clients that are so deep entrenched with like their medical doctor. I'm not saying that you don't go see your medical doctor. There
Right.
is a time and place for your medical doctor, but they're so afraid to even make the steps for themselves or
Mm.
step out and say, hey, wait a second, why am I doing this?
Right.
Right? It's the onus is on us to actually hear, because they don't know what's happening inside of our body. We're telling them, but we're physically living what's happening inside.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's all about, taking every action before having to go see my medical doctor.
Right. Right. And I mean, I'm the same way. When I studied the alternative medicine and I was brought into the world of like all these different things you can do, one of the number one things he would tell us, because he taught us a lot of different modalities and a lot of different things. And one of the number one thing he would say is, see yourself as a general primary alternative medicine person, doctor. Like, just to give you an idea, when the person comes to you for something, they're going to tell you the symptoms, and it's up to you to dig deep and find the root. Is the root emotional? Is it mental? Is it spiritual? I mean, you need to discover all the things and not just go like conventional medicine and say, oh, that's your symptom. Here you go.
Yeah.
No, it's the really dig deep and, okay, try this. Oh, that didn't work. Try this. Oh, that improved a little bit. Okay. How do you feel? All right. And then next step. Sometimes healing is quick.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a little bit of time because maybe there's a lot of crap going on. So it's not like, this is a magic wand, but it can be absolutely miraculous.
So
Just real quick, in Spanish, since I'm doing the Spanish videos as well now, in Spanish, I was talking to a holistic psychologist. So from a psychology point of view, he was literally sharing with us, and he goes, he was treating a patient who had depression. And he was like, how is depression serving you? And the client was like, obviously it's not. Why would I want depression? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And he was like, just go with me. From a psychology point of view, he was digging into what was the benefit. And literally 3 sessions down the line, because he was like, Angie, I was not going to give up, because he needed to make that click. And that's just like what we do with our clients in coaching. It's like they need to make the click. If we give them the answers, it doesn't help. So he was like, I was digging and digging. And the guy goes, just say whatever comes to your brain. And he goes, I don't want to have to take out the garbage. He was like, okay. And he started from there.
mhm.
Session number 4, he was like, holy crap. I didn't want to do what they were telling me. I preferred not to work. So I decided to just stay home. And I stayed home for so long, I was labeled depressed. I was just bored out of my mind and didn't want to do things I had to do. And I realized I just need to, like, he had all this, and we're not even talking about anything odd. How many of us
Yeah.
do things like that on the normal and then get labeled something else? And then, oh, okay, that's what I am. And then they follow that path. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
It is. And to talk about depression, so a lot of times women, at the between the age of like 35 to about 55, they're diagnosed with depression. But it's actually not depression, it's their hormones that are out of balance.
Okay.
So if you are a woman and your doctor says, okay, well, you need to take this medication, please, 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 like question it and ask them to do a test on your hormones. Get your hormonal test panel done. So then that way you can actually see, are you estrogen dominant?
Mm-hmm.
Are you progesterone dominant? Those will actually affect your mood, your depression. And so as we age,
Okay.
generally, like, I mean, between 35, like that's when sort of perimenopausal starts, right? So our interests start declining, all this weight starts coming on, we're very moody. And that is when a doctor will say, oh, you've got clinical depression. It's
Right.
actually you've got less estrogen in your body.
Okay.
Not a problem. You can counter that with certain foods.
That's what I was gonna say. And I'm sure
Yeah.
that there are foods that would help with that.
Yes. So one of the things that you would want to do is seed cycling. So the first 15 days of your cycle, you're eating a certain type of seed. Then the next 15 days, you're eating a certain type of seeds. So it's actually based on, so not 15 days, 14, sorry, 14 and 14, so 28,
Okay.
because it's based on the lunar cycle.
Ooh. That is
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, there's something with the lunar cycle, 28 days, 20. I mean, everything is so interconnected. And that's why I wanted to bring you up. And we're running out of time actually, but that's why I wanted you to come and talk with us because again, people see the title intuitive healing. They don't really know all of the things that it compiles. Like so many different things that can be helped with literally being intuitive in all aspects, but being intuitive with what's going on inside us, how we can help it, how we could improve, how we could probably even try to test more. If I want more energy, maybe I'm not energy deficient, but what the heck, let me give it a try. What can I eat? What would this do to me? Like having fun in a healthy way of actually bringing all these things to what they should be.
Yeah. And it brings out that creativity. Like, I mean, once you start sort of cooking and, looking at how you're nourishing your body, you start getting very creative.
Okay.
Very, very creative in the kitchen. You get very creative. So it's bringing out another side of you, which is play.
Yeah.
Right. And our soul loves to play.
Right.
It wants to always be playing. I'm actually going to give you an example of what had happened with one of my clients. So I had a client who was using skincare and she was just like, it smells like onions. Yeah, onions.
Yeah, not appetizing.
Not appetizing, right? And so she went to see her doctor, she went to go see all these specialists, and they just kept giving her like medication. And then she came to see me, and I'm like, okay, so actually, you know what? If you're telling me your skin, like you smell like onions, well, I think we actually need to do like a liver detox. So we did this liver detox because so now your liver is actually the one that does a lot of the processing. Like, so it's overly burdened with toxins and everything, right? And so we did a liver detox, and she was like, oh my God, that is amazing. Like, my doctors couldn't figure it out. They kept giving me like this pill and this pill and this pill and this pill. She's like, what the hell? What is going on? Not only now do I smell like onions, everything smells like onions, but I'm putting on weight and all these other side effects. So we were able to, pinpoint exactly what was happening, and that changed her life.
Okay. Because of what you've learned, because of what you studied, I would have never pictured you smell like onion, go check your liver. Obviously, you know that. But again, it's fascinating because your body is literally telling you through smell, check me, like the liver is here yelling, like this is the only signal I can get out to you. It's paying attention to that, but it was so precise
Yeah.
that she actually said, this is what I smell like. And you were able to pinpoint it, and the body got what it needed. No pill, I don't care. I'm all full blown. No pill in hell
No.
can actually pinpoint something as exact. And we all know, because even in their ads, there's a very fast speaking person at the very end of all pharmaceutical companies' products that say, and side effects could include, I'm more scared of the side effects than what it's supposed to be healing. Like, are you serious?
Yep.
And there's no side effects with food. If it's not going to do good for you, it's not going to do you any harm.
Your body will tell you.
Right.
Your
right.
body will tell you whether it's like gluten or dairy, or you've got another like insensitivity or allergy or intolerance. Your body is going to tell you right away, whether it is, like your skin flares up, or your throat caves. Your body's going to tell you you're not going to eat that food again. Right. So we just have to be more mindful of what we're eating, how we're consuming it, and what's happening. Like, our body speaks to us like loud and clear. Like a perfect example, like in 2014, I think this may be the last story. 2014, I had the worst headache in my life. 15 days consecutively. I was like in bed, no joke, 15 days consecutively. Migraine headache. I've never had this headache before. I could not come down even to eat.
Wow.
I was in so much pain. I was curled up in a ball. My head, I had my hands on my head because my head was bouncing from one end to the other. I went to go see my doctor, and to drive to my doctor's, thank God nothing happened. I don't even know how I made it there because I was so dizzy, so like out of it. Like, I just not coherent at all. My doctor's like, oh, you're stressed. I'm like, no, there's something happening here. And I'm looking on good old Google. Hey, like, what is it, with like, if you're having a headache for like 8 days or whatever. Mine was 15 days. They're like, well, if you're having a headache for 8 days, you probably had an aneurysm or something. But it wasn't that, thankfully. So and he was just like, oh, it's okay, just take one of those tongue depressant medications. I'm like, what the F? Pardon my French. Like, I literally swore at him. I'm like, what the hell is your problem? I can't see, I cannot function. I'm not able to eat. Like, I'm in so much pain, and you're telling me to take this? You're not getting to the root of it. And that's also sort of when my spiritual journey reawakened. So at that time, there was the Hay House Summit. So I was like, okay, honestly, I have nothing to lose at this point. At best, I'll get some information, whatever. So it was like a 21-day, and I was listening to it very religiously. And I was like, oh my God, there's all these things that are, happening. And that's when I realized I was actually gluten intolerant. So Dr. Wayne Dyer was talking about the wheat belly, and he was talking about all the symptoms of what's happening with gluten and everything. I'm like, okay, well, my doctor's not helping me here. Let me actually cut it all out. I have nothing to lose at this point. I have absolutely nothing to lose. And my headaches were gone. I could actually come out of my room and function again and not walk into walls because I was in so much pain. And I was just like, oh my God, like, it's such a simple thing that was causing so much pain. Now, had I listened to my doctor, I probably would have still been suffering.
And you'd still be taking the pill, not knowing why.
I would have been taking the pill, and I would have had other complications.
Right.
And so that was one thing for me growing up, because my, like, I've grown up with a family who is very dependent on drugs, that I've seen what has happened, and I'm like, I just cannot do that to myself and to my future. If I can help as many people understand that and, actually realize it, I've done my job. I've done my purpose.
My
I've
part,
lived my
right.
purpose.
Right. Again, that's the reason I wanted you on, because it's true. It's even with a pounding headache. And here's the difference between many of us as well. And straight out, you are absolutely in pain and suffering. 15 days, can't do anything. And they offer you, this could take it away. The difference is you questioned it. You looked for a different thing. You kept digging. 50% of the people or more, sadly, let's say 50 to be positive. 50% of the people will be like, okay, give me it, because I can't continue with this pain, because it gets intense. So it's also part of that, I don't want to say discipline, but that inner knowing of, God, there has to be something better than this, and actually looking for it in order to find it. Because if not, we take the easy way out, and then there's more complications down the line. So, I mean, that's beautiful. Honey, we are definitely running out of time.
Wow, time flies by so quickly when
I
you're having fun.
know. And there's like so many questions I still want to ask you, but it's fascinating. So where can people communicate with you? Like, I'll put it down in the comments below, because there's so much information to be shared. There's so much knowledge that we don't know. Like, I have learned my little notes. I have learned so much, just like the simple little things. And I know that if we each connect with you and we dig deep, what can we discover about ourselves and actually help ourselves in so many ways? Because again, we feel good with our bodies. Like you said, we're more creative. By the way, I did make a face when you were talking about the cooking. It wasn't directly related at that, because you said something about we even get more creative in the cooking. And I was like, yeah, I don't think so. I'm a horrible cook. The kitchen is like a nice accessory in wherever I live, because I am horrible at it. Thank God I like fruits and salads, because I don't need to cook those. Okay, but besides the point, that's how I made the face. Where can people connect with you?
So before I tell them where they can connect with me, like, I too thought I wasn't a good cook, because I come from like a line of really good cooks, and I just never had the passion of cooking like our traditional foods. I personally like seeing the foods. And so when I discovered that I was gluten intolerant, I took it upon me to learn how to make a roti.
Okay.
My mom didn't teach me. I was like, I need to do this, because if I'm gonna survive, how am I gonna, like, I have to give up bread. I need to have something to replace it. But in terms of the kitchen and the creativity, is take all notions away of like, okay, it's got to be a certain way. I've always been like a fusion cooker. Like, I like experimenting. And so do that. Just experiment.
We'll talk
Like,
about that after the show, because
like don't judge it, just experiment. So like, okay, you like fruits, so start with something fruit. So like, make like a fruit cocktail, like a different fruit cocktail. Or
okay.
make like a fruity drink, right? And then, okay, so now you feel comfortable with mixing your fruits. Like, you can mix fruit and mint. It actually tastes really good together.
Okay.
Then bring your fruit, you can bring some of your fruits into your food.
Okay.
So don't judge it, just play with it and have fun with it. If it doesn't taste good, okay, so you tried it, and you can either alter it, or you can say, nah, that's definitely a scrap. That's like, not to go. And let me tell you, TikTok really helps, because there's a lot of quick recipes. TikTok helps.
Okay.
And so you can find me on my website, which is below. You've got all my information. You can connect with me on my website. You can connect. Everything is connected. So just the website is perfect.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for joining us today. Honestly, it's been fun. It's been interesting. It's been eye-opening on certain things. Now I'm going to bug you for cooking recipes, easy cooking recipes.
For
But
sure.
thank you so much for coming on board today.
Thank you, Angie. It was a pleasure. And everyone, enjoy your cooking and just remember to enjoy your food. Enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.